Hey there, Fletcher from All Things Overlanding here, and today I'm going to be doing a video on my 2023 Nissan Frontier, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about my driving impressions. There have been a lot of questions people have asked about, how it drives. People have kind of complained of the heavy steering and things like that. So again, I wanted to kind of do a first-person view of just a nice drive through the country here and kind of show you what the truck looks like, what it's like to drive. What are the features inside that make this a really, really nice option as a mid-sized truck? So if you're looking at a Frontier or considering it against the other competitors, all the Tacomas and Colorados and Rangers of the world, just wanted to kind of give you like an in-person view of what the inside of this truck is like. So if you want to learn more about the 2023-2022 third gen Nissan Frontier and what it's like on the inside, stay tuned.
When I let you go. Where it came from, but you got it, I got it. It began in the land of the sandstorm. I fought it, though I wanted everything to do with what you gave to me. Loosening my grip.
All right, guys, so let's start with driving impressions. Now, again, I'm just driving down kind of a rural country road, so there's going to be some turns and twists and things here. So you'll get to see kind of the steering in action. I'll stop too and do sort of an acceleration test to kind of show you guys that. And then again, I'm going to kind of give you a walk around of the interior so that you can kind of see what it looks like. And I'll point out some of the features and stuff that, in my opinion, make this truck a really great option for pretty much anybody looking for a mid-sized truck. So as we're kind of driving down the road here, let me kind of start with the dash. Of course, it's going to show a little weird on the camera, but for a Nissan dash, they have definitely updated this from the older trucks. If you don't know my history, I had an 05 Xterra and a 2008 Titan swapped Nissan Frontier. So I had a big lifted truck with about 4 inches of lift, and it had all Titan, full-size Nissan Titan truck parts underneath of it, made it really wide, made it really big, and a little bit heavier duty. And I loved that truck. It was a great truck. But from, the second generation of the Frontier to the third generation, they made a ton of changes. And even about 2 years before that, they switched to the current engine and transmission combo that are in this truck in 2020. So this has the 3.8 liter V6 in it. It also has the 9-speed automatic transmission. Unfortunately, they did do away with the manual transmission option. So you can't get a manual transmission anymore in it, which is kind of regretful because it was for a long time one of the only ones you could get a 6-speed in, which was pretty cool. However, the 9-speed is really smooth. It does have some sort of hang-ups. It will do some weird stuff, especially in cruise control. My experience with it has been that it will floor it and drop 3 or 4 gears if it has to, just to get a mile per hour or two, which is a little bit annoying. But I've also heard that there are dealer fixes for that. So if you take it to a dealer, I've heard that they can do a flash basically to the ECU to sort of fix the transmission hunting issue. I haven't tried that yet myself. It's not that bad that it's really driving me crazy or anything, but it is something that I'm going to be looking into in the future when I get a minute and things warm up a little bit around here. So now I'm going to stop right here on this country road here, and I'm just going to kind of floor it and accelerate a little bit just to sort of show you what it's like. My impressions, not a race truck, right? It's got 310 horsepower. It'll get up and move pretty good if you give it gas. I'm probably about 60-70% of the floor there, and it loves to rev too. So this 3.8 liter will rev up to 5, 6, 7,000 RPMs pretty happily, and again, the transmission is super smooth. Also, my truck is slightly modified. It's lifted on an all dogs off-road suspension, so it does have about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of lift, and it's got a lot of gear on the rear because I do take it camping quite a bit. So even with that being said, though, the suspension is really nice. It's really supple. It feels really great to drive, and even on these bumpy sort of backcountry roads, it's extremely comfortable, especially compared to the older trucks that rode a little bit more trucky. So, it's definitely got more of like a softer car-like ride, which a lot of people seem to like. But then that kind of brings us to the steering, because that is a thing that people don't seem to like as much. The steering is, in my opinion, great. So it is hydraulic steering. A lot of these new vehicles have gone to sort of drive-by-wire, right? And so they are, a much softer touch. It doesn't take nearly as much effort to turn the wheel. And I think that that's kind of started to wear off on, the current generation of vehicle buyers, because that's one of the comments that I see in my comments on my videos quite a bit, and in like forums and Facebook groups. But so most people say things like, oh, the steering's so heavy, it's exhausting, this and that. Personally, I think it's just right. Again, it is hydraulic, so it does take a little bit of effort, but it feels like a truck. It doesn't feel like, you know, it's a truck trying to pretend to be a car. And personally, I like that. But, you know, on these back roads, especially making these turns and stuff, it's not hard to drive or turn. It's not hard to live with this truck. So, you know, it sort of seems to be that the steering is up to people's personal impression. So if you're worried about that, you know, definitely go to a Nissan dealership, take one for a test drive, see what you think, if it's a deal breaker for you or not. But just to kind of point that out again, if you're looking at these trucks and kind of considering getting one of these, that would be something to check out just to make sure that you're going to like that and not run into problems in the long term. So looking around the cabin, mine is a Pro-4X model, so it's kind of the top trim, which means mainly that it comes with some underbody armor and a rear locker. Now it has a number of other upgrades, like wheels are a little bit nicer, the interior is a little bit nicer, you get this sort of stitched seating with the Pro-4X logos in it. I personally think it's a really sharp looking interior, especially again compared to the older trucks that kind of had a tired interior that had been the same basically since 2005. If you're coming from an older Nissan, or if you're coming from, you know, similarly, a lot of the Toyota trucks even now till 2023 have kind of a dated interior, this has been really nicely upgraded. So, you know, it's got I believe it's an 8.4-inch touchscreen there, which is really nice. It's really responsive. It runs my wireless Apple CarPlay effortlessly and is great to, you know, sort of play around with. The HVAC controls are still a little old school down there, so they are, you know, you got your dual mode, you've got automatic temperature based settings. One thing that I really like about this truck is that even with the cloth seats, you can get, and you'll see them down here, heated seats and a heated steering wheel. Now those personally are my favorites. I do a lot of winter camping. I go driving a lot in the winter. I've got to take my kids to swim practice and things like that. So having the heated seat option is a really nice feature. Same with the steering wheel. It's just a really nice thing to have even with the cloth seats. I didn't have to opt for the, you know, more than $3,000 package, or about $3,000 package with the sunroof and leather to get the heated seats, which is what I really wanted. Mine also has the Fender premium audio, so the sound system in this thing is actually really impressive. It sounds fine. I mean, if you're an audiophile, you're never going to be happy with anything OEM, right? But if you are just someone that wants to have something that's better and doesn't want to mess with tearing your whole truck apart to sort of modify it and replace all the speakers, then the Fender audio system is a pretty good buy in my opinion. Another really nice thing is that behind the seat here in the back, there is a number of plugs, but there is a controller down here for the inverter. So you can turn on an inverter, and it does actually have an AC plug in the back. So if your kids have a device that they need to charge, they can do that inside the truck, which is just a nice update because again, the old trucks only ever had the 12 volt sort of DC plugs. So again, as far as driving impressions go, you know, with all these nice updates to the interior, with the nicer features like heated seats and stuff, these seats are another of my really big loves for this truck. They finally brought in what they call like zero gravity seats or something along those lines. And they've had them in their cars for a long time, but they've never really put them in the trucks. And they finally did that in this truck, and I'm so excited about it. They are fantastic. I actually took a trip from Indiana out to Wyoming and back in July of this year, just a couple months after I bought the truck. So I was on the road for like 3 days straight, and it was so comfortable and nice. And with the adaptive cruise, you know, it just made the trip so much easier and less stressful than it would have been in my old truck. So again, a lot of the updates that they've done are really fantastic. They make the truck sort of come alive, and they make it feel a lot more premium. Another thing that I want to point out about this truck is definitely check closely on the pricing. If you're comparing this to other trucks, you know, I compared this to a similar Tacoma TRD of 2023 versus 2023, and there was about almost a $9,000 difference. And I think the Tacoma actually had a few less options than the Frontier does. So again, you just kind of want to compare them across the board. One thing that Nissan's always been good at is building a lot of value and reliability and quality into a vehicle that costs significantly less than the comparable Toyota. And then of course, if you're looking at like a Honda Ridgeline, totally different truck. That is going to have a power assisted steering. It's just going to be a little bit different. It's going to drive more like a car or a Honda Pilot. So it's just a different beast. But if you're looking for a mid-sized truck with a lot of configurations, you can also get this in a number of configurations. Unless you go Pro-4X, then you can only get the short bed and the quad cab. So again, look at your configurations, think about your needs. And my overall driving impressions though, the vehicle are that it's super smooth, it's extremely comfortable. They did put double pane glass in this, so it's much quieter than the old trucks were too. So again, if you've had an old Nissan truck and you loved it because it was trucky truck, but you kind of have seen how all the other vehicles have passed Nissan by over the last 10 or 12 years. Nissan finally did something about it, I think, in this truck, and they updated it to the point where it is a really valuable, really valid contender to some of these other vehicles that are competitors to the Frontier. I am off-road on a gravel Forest Service road, so I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what that was like. As you can see, the suspension just sort of sucks up the bumps. Now, again, as I mentioned, I do have aftermarket suspension, but it essentially rides just like the OEM stuff, so there hasn't really been a change except it lifts the vehicle about 1.5 inches. So, you know, off-road, still relatively quiet. You can hear rocks kind of hitting the bottom of the truck and stuff, which is to be expected. But honestly, I mean, it drives great, it handles great off-road. The vehicle dynamic control, the VDC, can be disabled and turned off. But with it on, it actually, in two-wheel drive, it actually helps prevent some sliding and makes the truck do really great. And it's actually a lot of fun to kind of throw around some of these gravel backcountry roads, even at 30, 40 miles an hour. It does just great and handles really well. So this is what it's like driving on a pretty washboarded gravel road. All right, guys, so that was my sort of driving impressions of my new Nissan Frontier. Hopefully that was helpful for you. If it was, click that like button. If you have any questions, of course, post up in the comments. I mean, I've had this truck for about 8 months now. It's my 3rd Nissan truck, so I've got a fair amount of experience with Nissan trucks, and I would say that I'm a fan of them for sure. So again, if you have any questions, if you want to know anything, just post up down below and I'm happy to answer them. Also in the description down below will be links to all my social channels, so if you'd like to come hang out other places, I'd love to have you over there as well. Then there's a link to my website where I've got funny overlanding and camping themed stickers and patches. So if you're into that kind of stuff, if you're wanting stickers to put on your fridge or your windows, check that link out. And then last but not least, there is a link to my Patreon group where we've got a 24/7 Discord, and we all kind of talk about rigs and trips and gear and things all the time, and it's a ton of fun. So if you'd like to support the channel, if you want to be a part of that group, definitely check that link out. And then the very final thing is the link to Newbie Overlanders, which is a free Facebook group that I started a couple years ago. It's got over 14,000 members now, and it's an amazing group of people. They're all super helpful, ready to answer questions and stuff. So if you're looking to get into overlanding, if you're kind of newer to it, definitely consider checking that out. But again, thanks so much for watching. Hope that was helpful, and we'll see you next time.